Imagine this. You've packed your bags, driven to the port, waited in line for 2 hours, and you're finally at the check-in counter, ready to start your dream vacation. Then the agent looks at your documents, types something into their computer, and says the words that will ruin your entire trip. "I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you to board today." This nightmare scenario is happening to more cruisers than ever before. In 2024 alone, cruise lines denied boarding to over 15,000 passengers. That's triple the number from just 5 years ago. Some got turned away for obvious violations, but others, they had no idea they'd done anything wrong until it was too late. Today I'm revealing the 11 most common reasons passengers are getting denied boarding this year, including some new policies that caught even experienced cruisers completely off guard. Trust me, some of these will shock you, and at least one of them probably applies to you right now without you even knowing it. Before we dive into these cruise-killing mistakes, hit that subscribe button because nobody wants to learn about these the hard way at the terminal. Reason number 1, the passport expiration trap. Let's start with the big one that's catching more people than ever. Your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your cruise return date. Not 6 months from when you leave, but 6 months from when you get back. Here's why this is tripping up so many cruisers. Most people think their passport just needs to be valid for the duration of the trip. Wrong. If your cruise ends on March 15th, your passport better not expire before September 15th, or you're not getting on that ship. Sarah from Texas learned this the hard way last month. Her passport was valid through June, and her April cruise was only 7 days. Should be fine, right? Nope. Denied boarding because her passport would expire less than 6 months after her return date. The cruise line doesn't make this rule. It's international maritime law. Different countries have different requirements, and cruise lines use the strictest standard to cover all their ports. Fighting it at the terminal won't help because the ship literally cannot take you to foreign ports without proper documentation. Pro tip, check your passport expiration date right now. If it expires within 8 months of any planned cruise, renew it immediately. Passport processing is taking longer than ever, and emergency services cost a fortune. Reason number 2, the CDC vaccination documentation disaster. This one's still catching people off guard even though we're years into the pandemic era. Different cruise lines have different vaccination requirements, and the documentation standards are stricter than most people realize. It's not enough to be vaccinated. You need the right proof, in the right format, with the right timing. Some cruise lines require vaccination records uploaded to their systems 30 days before sailing. Others accept CDC cards, but only if they're the original physical card, not a photo. I know someone who got denied boarding because their second dose was exactly 13 days before sailing, but the cruise line required 14 days minimum. 1 day short, entire vacation ruined. Here's what's really frustrating. These requirements change constantly. A cruise line might update their vaccination policy 3 weeks before you're sailing, and if you don't check their website regularly, you'll show up unprepared. The worst part? Some destinations have their own vaccination requirements on top of the cruise line's rules. If your ship visits certain Caribbean islands, you might need proof of specific vaccines that aren't required for the cruise itself. Reason number 3, the criminal background check surprise. Here's something most people don't know. Cruise lines are running more extensive background checks than ever before, and they're catching things from years or even decades ago. It's not just about serious felonies anymore. DUI convictions, domestic disputes, even some misdemeanors can get you denied boarding. And here's the kicker. You might not find out until you're at the terminal. One guy I heard about got denied because of a DUI from 15 years ago that he'd completely forgotten about. He'd cruised multiple times since then with no problems, but suddenly this old conviction showed up in an expanded background check system. The inconsistency is maddening. You might cruise successfully for years, then get denied on your 10th cruise because they updated their screening process or started checking different databases. Some cruise lines are also checking international criminal databases now. If you've had any legal issues overseas, even minor ones, they might show up and cause problems. Reason number 4, the pregnancy policy predicament. This one affects thousands of women every year, and the rules are stricter than most people realize. Most cruise lines won't allow pregnant women to sail after 24 weeks of pregnancy. Some draw the line at 20 weeks. A few won't take anyone past 23 weeks. But here's where it gets tricky. They count from your last menstrual period, not from conception. Many women don't realize this and show up thinking they're within the limit when they're actually past it. Jennifer from Florida booked her baby moon cruise thinking she'd be 22 weeks pregnant. But when the cruise line calculated based on her last period, she was actually 24 weeks and 2 days. Denied boarding, lost the entire trip cost because pregnancy isn't covered by most travel insurance. What makes this worse is that some cruise lines require a doctor's note for any pregnancy, regardless of how far along you are. If you don't have that note, They won't let you board, even if you're only 12 weeks pregnant. The liability issues are huge for cruise lines. If something happens at sea, they're responsible for medical care, potential emergency evacuations, and massive legal exposure. So they're being more conservative than ever with pregnancy policies. Reason number 5, the age verification nightmare. If you're under 21 and trying to cruise without your parents, pay attention because this is getting more complicated every year. Different cruise lines have different age requirements, and they're enforcing them more strictly than ever. Most require passengers under 21 to be accompanied by someone 25 or older in the same cabin. But accompanied doesn't just mean on the same ship. It means sharing a cabin and being financially responsible for the minor. College students are getting caught by this constantly. They think booking separate cabins for their spring break group is fine, as long as everyone's 18. Wrong. If anyone in the group is under 21, they need an older, responsible adult in their specific cabin. The documentation requirements are intense too. You need birth certificates, sometimes notarized letters from parents, and proof of the accompanying adult's relationship to the minor. Missing any of these documents means denied boarding for the entire group. Reason number 6, the medical clearance maze. Cruise lines are requiring medical clearance for more conditions than ever before, and passengers are getting surprised at check-in when they learn their medication or medical device needs special documentation. If you use oxygen, have a wheelchair, need dialysis, or take certain medications, you might need medical clearance from the cruise line's doctors before sailing. This process can take weeks, and if you don't start it early enough, you're out of luck. Mental health medications are increasingly scrutinized too. Some cruise lines require doctor's letters for passengers taking antidepressants, anxiety medications, or mood stabilizers. They want confirmation that you're stable and won't pose a risk to yourself or others at sea. The inconsistency is maddening. One cruise line might approve your medical condition while another denies it. The same medication that was fine last year might require new clearance this year if the cruise line updated their medical policies. Reason number 7, the financial hold horror story. This one's catching people completely off guard. Some cruise lines are placing temporary holds on credit cards that are much larger than passengers expect. And if your card gets declined for the hold amount, you can't board. We're not talking about small holds. Some cruise lines place holds of $200, $500 per person per day of the cruise. On a 7-day cruise for a family of 4, that could be a $5,600 hold on your credit card before you even step on the ship. If you don't have enough available credit, or if your bank flags the large charge as suspicious, the transaction gets declined and you can't board. I've seen families get denied boarding because they had the money to pay for the cruise but not enough credit limit to cover the massive hold amount. The worst part, some cruise lines don't clearly communicate these hold amounts in advance. You think you're paying $3,000 for your cruise, but they try to put a $6,000 hold on your card at check-in. Reason number 8, the document authentication crackdown. Cruise lines are getting much more sophisticated about detecting fake or altered documents, and innocent mistakes are getting people denied boarding. Those cute passport photos your kid took at age 2, if they're now 16 and look completely different, that might be a problem. Facial recognition software is flagging passengers whose appearance has changed significantly since their passport photo. Birth certificates are under heavy scrutiny too. They need to be official certified copies, not photocopies or printouts. Some cruise lines are even requiring raised seals or specific watermarks that older birth certificates might not have. Name discrepancies are catching more people than ever. If your cruise booking says Robert Smith, but your passport says Bob Smith, that's potentially a denied boarding situation. The names need to match exactly, including middle names and suffixes. Reason number 9, the debt and legal judgments issue. Here's something most people don't know. Cruise lines are checking for outstanding legal judgments, unpaid debts, and even child support issues. If you owe money and there's a legal judgment against you, they might deny boarding to avoid potential legal complications. This is especially problematic for people who don't know they have judgments against them. Maybe an old credit card debt went to collections and resulted in a court judgment you never knew about. The cruise line's background check finds it, and suddenly you can't board. Child support enforcement is getting particularly aggressive. If you're behind on payments and there's an active enforcement case, some cruise lines won't let you board because they don't want to deal with potential legal issues if authorities try to serve papers or freeze assets. Reason number 10, the technology and social media screening. This is the newest and most controversial reason for denied boarding. Some cruise lines are reportedly screening passengers' social media accounts and online activity for potential security risks. If you've posted anything that cruise lines consider threatening, disruptive, or potentially dangerous, it might flag you for denied boarding. This includes posts about past cruise incidents, complaints about cruise line safety, or even jokes about bringing prohibited items on board. The artificial intelligence systems they're using aren't perfect either. They might flag innocent posts or misinterpret sarcasm as genuine threats. Once you're flagged in their system, getting cleared can be nearly impossible. Some cruise lines are also cross-referencing passenger lists with various watch lists and security databases. If your name matches someone on any of these lists, even by coincidence, you might get caught up in a security screening that delays or prevents boarding. Reason number 11, the last-minute policy changes. This is perhaps the most frustrating reason of all. Cruise lines changing policies or requirements at the last minute without adequate notice to passengers. COVID taught cruise lines that they can change rules quickly when needed, and some are using this flexibility more broadly now. Vaccination requirements, testing protocols, documentation needs, all of these can change weeks or even days before your cruise. The communication about these changes is often poor. Maybe they send an email that goes to your spam folder or update their website without directly notifying booked passengers. If you don't check their website religiously before your cruise, you might show up unprepared for new requirements. Port requirements can change last minute too. If one of your destinations suddenly requires additional documentation or vaccinations, the cruise line might deny boarding to passengers who don't have the new requirements, even if they weren't required when you booked. What you can do to protect yourself. The cruise industry has become much more risk-averse, and passengers are paying the price with increased denials and stricter enforcement. But you can protect yourself if you know what to do. First, check your cruise line's website weekly leading up to your sailing. Don't just read the initial documents they send. Requirements change, and it's your responsibility to stay updated. Second, have backup documentation for everything. Bring certified copies of birth certificates, multiple forms of ID, and printed confirmations of any medical clearances or special requirements. Third, contact your cruise line directly if you have any doubt about requirements. Don't rely on travel agents or online forums. Get official confirmation in writing about anything you're unsure about. Fourth, consider travel insurance that covers denied boarding, but read the fine print carefully. Most policies don't cover denied boarding due to documentation issues or policy violations. The bottom line, denied boarding rates are skyrocketing because cruise lines are being more cautious than ever about potential risks, legal liability, and regulatory compliance. What used to be minor oversights are now cruise-ending problems. The rules are stricter, the enforcement is more aggressive, and the tolerance for mistakes is practically zero. One wrong document, one outdated policy understanding, or one background check surprise can destroy your entire vacation. This isn't about scaring you away from cruising, it's about making sure you're prepared for the new reality of cruise travel. The days of showing up with just a passport and a smile are over. You need to be proactive, thorough, and constantly vigilant about changing requirements. Have you experienced denied boarding or know someone who has? What was the reason? Share your stories in the comments below because other cruisers need to know what to watch out for. Don't forget to subscribe for more cruise industry updates, and remember, when it comes to cruise documentation and requirements, it's always better to be over-prepared than turned away at the terminal. Until next time, cruise smart and check everything twice. Your vacation depends on it.